Hello, how's it going? My name is Quentin, it Reads and Rambles, and I'm here doing a tag type of video. A nice easy one to sort of get back into the swing of things on BookTube. I do like tag videos, so, you know, hence what we're doing here. So, this is the Ringing in the New Year tag. The OG video is from Bookmark Chronicles. I'll link it. Nice tag, really like it. Just nice, easy, chill discussion. Let's just do it, okay? Question number one, prompt number one, the best book or series that you've read in 2023. Now these are, I have a lot, but I'd say one of the best, absolutely, is Emile Zola, The Fortune of the Rougons. I love this thing. They're such amazing, sweeping, enveloping narratives. And I'm so excited to get to the Rougon-Macquart novels, and just awesome stuff. That's one of them. The next one, Canadian author, Mordecai Richler. There are a lot of parallels with Philip Roth, but he also has a killer satiric bent. And this book, Barney's version, I read it for school and it was just fantastic. I would highly, highly, highly recommend this if you enjoy some of the humor of a Philip Roth, but you also want a little bit of the satiric bite of not so much someone like Gaddis, but it's the same type of when there's satire. Sometimes Mordecai Richler is out for blood, and he draws blood a lot of the time. He's Canada's greatest satirist, I think. Amazing book. Also, if you want to hear about Quebec, especially the satire about the Quebec separatists, amazing treatment of that. But Mordecai Richler, Barney's version, amazing story about an old man losing his memory. Really emotive too. And of course, Emile Zola is emotive. He's also funny. He's also really ironic and wicked, but the satire is nothing like Richler. The next one I'll talk about is Fumiko Enchi's Masks. This is an amazing book, amazing Japanese book, basically contemplating the cultural and literary influence of Japan's sort of prime creatives around the time of the Heian period, and these were women mostly. Men wrote court poetry, some of which I'll get to, but the women wrote what I think are probably the most significant of poems from that time period, that era. Things like the Tale of Genji. Of course, Ise is a monumental work. It doesn't seem like it, but it is. Trust me. That type of stuff. And Fumiko Enchi's Mask is talking about the influence of that stuff. They're amazing. Possession. One of the characters studies possession. It's just a great book, great characters, demented freaking change up partway through. Please check out Masks by Fumiko Enchi. And then the last one, I don't have it with me, is Yukio Mishima's Sea of Fertility Tetralogy. Now, any of the volumes in this tetralogy are imperfect. All of them are imperfect, I mean. And what makes this tetralogy so good to me is that each volume, in my translation, I have the vintage versions, each volume has its own flavor. The first volume, and this is where Mishima is really mastering tone in his career. The first one, Spring Snow, is just awesome. One of my favorite examples of that tone is when a character has a snowball and he throws it at two guys who are talking about history. And once they finish their discussion about history, of course, you know, the whole series is about history and Western influence and all that. But once they finish talking about history, the snowball falls and it bursts in an explosion of sparkling fragments. And it's just an amazingly perfect image. It's very Bataille. There are parts towards the end that really feel like this crazy Victorian era family saga, or these like political problems and stuff like that keep happening. It's awesome. The next one's probably my least favorite, Runaway Horses. But if you're interested in Mishima's sort of life, that's the one for you. Whereas Spring Snow is this very delicate and tender book. That one is very much strong and lean. Think of spring, now it's summer. It's strength, it's life, and we're gonna go fight for Japan's independence. The nationalism is freaking gross, but apart from that, it's a pretty decent volume. And then the next one, The Temple of Dawn, is the most uneven, but this is where it's autumn, you know? The tone really starts to go towards death, and Mishima's interest in perversion starts taking over. There is a whole type of peephole philosophy where a guy is looking through a peephole at this woman and he's seeing people have sex in the bed through the peephole that he's looking through. It's pretty demented. And then, you know, of course, this is some kind of weird reflection on, anyways, that's not the point. That's a really good volume. The tone of this volume is very dark, very shadowy, very mysterious. It is also a great satire of artists, which this is a weird thing about Mishima's tetralogy. It kind of, Mishima's putting the hat on of the satirist. He's putting his satirist hat on. He's really heavy-handed, but a lot of it's quite funny. And this is a kind of volume that mocks the sort of really, the really gaudy art, especially of places like India. He's specifically an Indian temple, and the Ganges River, I think it's pronounced, is a big figure in the book. It is the book whose tone is simultaneously holy and gaudy, but also depraved and gross and filthy. Just like seeing these monuments rise up out of the Ganges River. And if you know anything about that river, you know how perfect of a thing that is for Mishima to set his sights on. And then the last volume, The Decay of the Angel, is great. It was really bad for my mental health at the time because it is so stomach churning in spots. But man, just what an amazing end. I'm not going to say anything about the end. My camera's run out of battery, my phone. But I'm not going to say anything about the ending. But one thing you want to do with this is you really want to check out the way that Mishima is setting up these arcs, completing these arcs. You know, all the things he's able to say about Japanese history post beyond the Second Sino-Japanese War. Actually, no, before. I think it's the First Sino-Japanese War he's talking about beyond. It's really interesting. The depictions of post-World War II are haunting. The arcs are amazing. Honda's, the way he devolves is fantastic. And also the final scene, I'm not going to say anything about it, but it is one of the best endings I've ever read. And the whole series really does feel like far more than the sum of its parts. It's Mishima at his best, critiquing influence in Japan, Western influence, but also Buddhist philosophy. It's a book that the main deal is reincarnation, and he is critiquing that, it seems, because it is a completely, as it is in the book, it's a completely bankrupt sort of way of looking at the world for reasons that you'll find out if you read it. But anyways, that's it. It's good. Read it, please. Great tone. Great arcs, and please do read them in sequence close by. It was a great reading project for me. I really enjoyed it. It took me about a month and a half. But anyways, let's get back to the tag. Number 2, authors you discovered last year and want to read more from. I have a couple here. So number 1, Dorothy Livesay. I love her poem Day and Night. It's really interesting. Great modernist poet. I also read some sort of her imagist poetry. I'm trying to find the volume that a professor gave me this. Canadian poetry, 1920 to 1960, modernist era, and then beyond that. So, yeah, it's cool. Dorothy Livesay, check out Day and Night, check out some of her poems. Anne Marriott, mwah, great poem, great poets. Also, Rue Borson. Where did I leave my Rue Borson book? I wrote an essay on a poem called Jacaranda, which is pretty good. I think it's a pretty good poem. And recently I've been reading this, Intent or the Weight of the World, and it's nice. I might tell you more about it when I finish it. I haven't been able to really crack a lot of what Borson's doing in this collection, but I do like it quite a bit. She's a Canadian poet, and she's just awesome. She writes about Toronto a lot, so when I go to Toronto, I read this. Next is obviously Emile Zola, the Rougon-Macquart books. You know, I got as a gift, I got The Kill from someone recently, and then His Excellency Eugene Rougon I already had, so these are the next ones for sure. Very excited for more Zola. And then Octavio Paz, actually, his selected poems. I read Salamander in here, and it was absolutely breathtaking. He also has a poem about hearing footsteps in the street that is awesome. I don't know. It's great. You might hear me talk about it. These are authors that I definitely want to check out more of. I'm really enjoying what I'm reading from them. 3, best book to movie adaptation, or one I'm looking forward to. I don't remember the question. Doesn't matter. I'm not really much for the moving pictures. I don't have a TV. So, yeah. Makes me a bit of a freak amongst the people in my program. But what do you do when you live in a shoe, right? 4, has there been a change in my reading habits over last year? Have I gotten into any new genres? Well, yes and no, right? I've been at school for the past year, and that has really made me read, number 1, more quickly. Number 2, more widely. I'm now getting much deeper insight into things like Canadian poetry, where I wasn't before. Learning about eras in history I wasn't before. Got into Renaissance stuff. There's a lot of stuff I've been getting into because of school. New genres, yeah, lots of it. But it's also made me read shorter books and given me an appreciation for poetry collections, which is part of my resolution, is to read more translated poets. And poetry collections are just perfect for when you're in the semester, you want to read something here and there. It's nice. It's fantastic. So, yeah, that's how my reading habits have changed. I'm reading more books than I really have in a bit, right? But, yeah. Next question, number 5. What is your favorite ship, romantic or platonic, that you've read this year? Well, these ones are going to be related, actually. Give me 1 second. So I read this book with a buddy on Instagram, Anthony, I believe his name is, Anthony. I don't know how to say his name, but we read a bunch of this book recently, and holy crap, I freaking love Junichiro Tanazaki's stories here. And the specific relationships I'm thinking of are the one from The Bridge of Dreams, which is like Fumiko Enchi's Masks, which also has one of the relationships we're going to talk about here. It is considering the influence of Genji and Japan's female authors, the foundational female authors, in the whole tradition, but it's doing it through this really bizarre relation where you have and this is basically on the first or second page of the story. It's really obvious, but this guy has been growing up, and he has he's been cuddling his mother a lot, and then his mother dies, and his father gets a new woman who looks basically just like his mother, who takes over his mother's name, and who, of course, acts just like his mother. It is a really demented relationship, especially because in true Junichiro Tanizaki fashion, things turn erotic very quickly, and it's quite good. This whole volume actually is fantastic, except the last story I found it a little tedious, but it's still very, very good narrative. But yeah, check out this volume, specifically The Bridge of Dreams. It's fantastic. What more do we need to tell you? Come on, give your head a shake if you haven't been reading Junichiro Tanazaki's 7 Japanese Tales. Come on. And then Masks, Fumiko Enchi, which is specifically one guy is being wooed by a woman, and this woman has a sister who there is something up with the sister. If you know, it is there's a demented erotic scene in the middle. There's a demented love scene in the middle that just makes this entire thing. It flips the entire book on its head. It is a really slow burn up until that point, and that point is like an atom bomb. I shouldn't say that about, the book is like a grenade in the middle of the freaking thing. But fantastic relationship. So the 2 sisters and the love interest in Mask, and then this kid and his 2 mothers in The Bridge of Dreams, Junichiro Tanizaki. Good stuff. Planning your TBR. Have you started? How many books do you want to read this year? My goal is 48 books, like start to finish, 48 books, like cover to cover. And I think I could do that, honestly, especially with what I have to read. I have to read a lot of stuff for school. So I think I could do that. Planning your TBR. Have I started? Unfortunately, yes. I always plan a TBR and I always fail. No doubt there is a million things I said I would read on this channel that I haven't. But I got, of course, I've read a little bit of Parallel Stories by Peter Nadash. just just really, really fascinating. I'm just barely, I think, like 90 pages in. Just about to start Everyone in Their Own Darkness, which I've read the first couple pages of, and it seems like it too is going to be great. He's an amazing writer. Just really modernist techniques going on, and I love the multiple narrative. Every part of the narrative is fascinating, and he's so skilled with his symbolism. Like a character comes in and you understand that character to the core in freaking 3 paragraphs. And also, you understand if they're a symbol for like old Hungary or something like that. Specifically, there's this house that is symbolic, and the people like the concierge at the house and also the architect are very symbolic figures, and he's just able to characterize them so piercingly, so quickly, and also handle his symbolism like a freaking madman. It's awesome. It's fantastic. He's such a great craftsman. And I can't wait to see the book structure, how these narratives kind of, I don't imagine they're very temporally different, but I really want to see what these narratives are like and what they tell about each other as they flow on. Very excited. It's a very enveloping read. I find it really difficult to not just get sucked into more of it, but I have Joyce to read, which I have my own opinions about. But anyways, yes, that's to say I've started. Hopefully Elias Canetti's memoir trilogy, those types of reads I want to do during the summer. So it's, 48 books. I want to be knocking off individual volumes as much as I can, right? And I have all 3 of his memoirs in individual volumes. Yeah, stuff like that. Will you participate in reading challenges and read-a-thons this year? Hell yes, I'm doing actually the Read What You Own, because I've amassed a bunch of books that I'm fascinated with. But I'm, as any literature lover knows, there's so many more things that are fascinating. Always, I don't care how much you read. There are so many more things that are fascinating out there than what you've read. So I'm always thinking about I need to hear about the George Miles cycle from Dennis Cooper. And then I, of course, realize, that's buying 5 new books. Maybe not now. Unless someone wants to gift it to me. I'm always open to that. But, that's what's up. And read-a-thons, I wish so much I could do March of the Mammoths, honestly, but it's like almost exam season. I have a million things to do, essays to write. I can't do March of the Mammoths, but what do you do, right? When I'm done school, I'll be doing March of the Mammoths. 8, New Year's resolutions. What are the resolutions? What are your goals? 1, again, I said it, read more translated poets. I started with Rilke. I have this amazing Rilke edition. Oh my God, the freaking Duino elegies, sonnets to Orpheus. Some of these are just a bunch of last poems. Oftentimes they are completely untitled. And the insights that Rilke bakes into these, like Jesus Murphy, they're so cutting and they're so quick and almost off the cuff seeming. Like he's such a master. Rilke is just fantastic. But more translated poets, specifically, actually, I have these old anthologies that I have. Of course, traditional Japanese poetry and anthology, an amazing anthology. I really recommend you get it if you want a nice entry-level stuff into the complete Japanese poetry up until like 1900, I think. It's very good, especially the stuff they have in the ancient age. I wish I had a more extensive volume of just the ancient age. But yeah, these are fantastic. I'm trying to read more of these translated poets, right? And then also Poems of the Masters, China's classic anthology of Tang and Sung dynasty verse, I think it's pronounced, by Red Pine. Very, very interesting book. Another good one if you want to just take sort of sips of it and go back. I'm very excited for that. I have Octavio Paz. I have some of Vesos's poetry, Pessoa's poetry, stuff like that. Very excited, very excited, very excited. That's 1. Number 2, don't accept books I don't want, even if they're free. I gotta stop doing that. That's part of the reason I have way too many. I threw out 50-something books that I had at home, some of which I read, much of which I read and thought were crap. A lot of which I read a bit of and realized I don't need more of Ducks Newburyport in my life, and stuff like that, right? And then 3, resolutions. This is a little bit literary. Le Fleur du Mal. I live with a bunch of Frenchmen, and I really want to learn French. So I'm getting a couple French books, a French-English dictionary, and I'm going to see if I can build my French knowledge, a little bit of French language. And of course, this is kind of difficult, but I find metaphors are actually very helpful for me for understanding, and poetry in general can be very helpful for understanding. So for understanding another language, for me at least. So yeah, that's what's up with me. Who do I want to tag? Well, Rambling Raconteur, my guy Jack, has tagged me in a bunch of stuff. So I haven't done many of the tags. I'm sorry, Jack. I'm from the bottom of my heart. I'm sorry. But hopefully you can do this one. I'd be interested in seeing it. I've heard stuff that's just kind of, this is a pretty just off-the-cuff tag. Maybe I can manifest a video from Noah, if everyone who reads it must converse, if I tag him. So those are mostly the two that I'm going to tag for this. I wasn't tagged by anyone because nobody likes me, right? But what do you do, right? Anyways, that's it. That's all. Off-the-cuff video for ya. Peace and groovy. And stay well, bruh.